shortly. Thank you so much, John. It's so good to have um, you here. First of all, let's acknowledge country. Wyndham Community Education Centre acknowledge Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the first custodians of the lands in which Australia was founded. And we recognise the Wathaurong, Wurrung and Bunurong peoples of the Kulin Nation as our traditional owners of the lands on which we live and work and play in this developing city of Wyndham. We pay our respects to the elders past, present and acknowledge any Aboriginal people joining us here tonight. I hope we can continue to learn from the wisdom of the traditional owners of this land and learn to better care for country and to create positive kinship, culture and connectedness to this place. I'd like to thank Sharon Brown from the Wyndham City Council for this opportunity to present this masterclass in the benefits of mentoring. And I'd certainly like to acknowledge all of you here who have come tonight to hear from these panel members. Sharon, was there anything that you would like to say before we kick on?
Now, I'd like to say congratulations to Wyndham Community Education Centre for the opportunity to provide a pathway to some of the building block participants who are here tonight. It's basically, it's always been an area of mentoring that many of the participants are interested in. So providing an introduction to the mentoring information, especially as it relates to Wyndham, I think is brilliant. So I just would like to congratulate WCEC for being very inspirational in this area, and I'm sure that the program will be greatly benefit to not only Wyndham but particularly the building block alumni, of which we have several here tonight.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Thanks, very kind words. I just wanted to run through the format. It's a 2 hours session. Like to finish up at 9 o'clock, if a little bit earlier if we do, just see how we go. As I mentioned before, our key objective is to discuss the fundamentals of mentoring and to pick out the key benefits of this opportunity. It's a learning opportunity, and we're going to turn to our panel members in order to get their experience from their particular organisations. And we're going to run through a number of questions to the panel, and then we're going to take a break around about 8 o'clock just for 10 minutes. So it's a stretch break, time to refresh your cup of tea or coffee or glass of wine or your water, whatever is your thing. And that'll be a time that we'll have an open discussion too, if you like. We'll just do that for about 10 minutes. And then what we'd like to do is to drop out into some breakout rooms, and it'll be an opportunity for the alumni members to choose who they would like to speak to in particular from the panel. So that's been an interesting thing. We haven't really done too many pick your own rooms, but they'll be named and you'll be able to just jump into a room and have a more closer conversation with a panel member. Then we will take another opportunity to have a breakout room, but that'll be will appoint those, and another opportunity more so to network and to ask any further questions, maybe share some experiences as being a mentor or mentee, or whatever you would like to do. It's always a good opportunity to catch up with each other. And when we were first coming into the room tonight, there's obviously some old friendships, and I'm sure you really like to catch up because it's been quite some time, hasn't it, since we've been able to get out and about. The last thing on this slide is I would like to understand what brings you here tonight. If you wouldn't mind popping into the chat, I'd be really interested to see what is it that brings you along tonight, and hopefully that we will be able to answer all of your questions here. I'm just going to go back into our wider screen. What I'd like to do now is to introduce our esteemed panel members for this evening. I'd like to, first of all, welcome in Helen Rodd, and I'm sure many of you recognise Helen through her commitments to the Building Blocks program and her expansive work as a passionate community development practitioner, educator and researcher. Helen's the lead of Hot House Community Projects, working alongside diverse communities and practicing and teaching community development to build great communities and better futures for people and the planet. Her work expands across a range of roles in the community development, youth work and education sectors for over 30 years. Thanks, Helen. And then we have Martin Probst from Profound Leadership. Martin is the co-founder of Profound Leadership, and he's an award-winning facilitator, trainer, speaker, author, mentor and coach. Martin teaches human-centred leadership to many people and organisations in Australia and around the globe to help managers and team leaders to empower themselves to positively impact the people around them through their actions and authentic leadership style. Martin is very active in a series of online workshops within our community to sharpen communication and leadership skills. We have Jamie Morgan-Besser here. Thank you, Jamie, for joining us from Brisbane. Jamie leads the Disaster Recovery Advisors and Mentors Australia with the Australian Red Cross. Jamie provides psychosocial support in communities to prepare for, respond to and recover from disasters and disruptions. And in recognition of her service, has been awarded the National Emergency Medal in 2015 and the Australian Red Cross Long Service Medal. I must say, you look too young to have a long service medal. And then we have Tess Williamson joining us from White Line, Community Connections Coordinator. White Line began in 1999 with a focus on mentoring young people who had been recently released from the justice system to help reduce that repeating undesirable behaviours. White Line works with 14 to 24-year-olds and highly vulnerable, high-risk members of our community to build positive connections and pathways back to work. And then we have Jeffrey Lai is the founder of EqualEd, a social enterprise that aims to improve education outcomes for young people in our community. And together with local government and other non-profits, EqualEd delivers tutoring services and the Young Innovators program, providing educational support and youth empowerment to help young people reach their full potential.
Beautiful.
So on behalf of everybody here, thank you for your time tonight and for sharing your wisdom and expertise with us. In addition to asking you what brings you here, I wanted to really set a bit of a benchmark in terms of what is mentoring and what is the difference between mentoring and coaching. So I'm just going to share my screen just to go through this. So can I have a thumbs up, Helen? I can see you. Is a thumbs up if you can see that okay? Fantastic. So what is mentoring? A definition. And I can read it to you, but whoopsie, I went too far. Someone who offers his or her wisdom who has already walked the same life experiences to another less experienced. The expectation is that knowledge, power and influence of the mentor will assist the mentee in achieving their personal development objectives. There's many similarities, and we're going to discuss that a little bit more, but there's very similarities and differences between coaching and mentoring. I just wanted to set a little bit of benchmark on that. So I did quite a bit of research around to try and really narrow down on and pinpoint those differences. It seems that coaching is more perhaps a more short-term engagement with specific goals and performance in mind. There's a lot of asking of questions. It's more formal, and generally the coach is a formally qualified coach. Whereas with mentoring, it might be more of a longer-term focus. It's more guiding and tells how, because they've had more life experience. It's an opportunity to learn from each other, and perhaps it's a little bit less formal in its approach. Let me just get rid of that for a minute and come back to our panel and then we'll get let's start on. What I would like to do is start out by asking all of you the same question, and that's a way that we can get to know you and your organisation a little bit more too. And I'll start with Jeff because he's at the top left-hand side of the screen for me. And then what I'd like to do is perhaps once you've answered the question, would you throw this talking ball to the next person? And Martin and Helen and Tess and Jamie are there. So my first question is, can you give us a brief overview of the context of mentoring within your organisation? And let's say about 5 minutes each, if we could. Over to you, Jeff.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Bettina. And also it's awesome being able to, see everybody here, and thank you for having me come on board as a panelist. Appreciate it. So I guess a bit of the context about Equal Ed and the type of mentoring that we do. We've had previous experience actually mentoring with a wide range of different people from different age ranges. So some of our mentoring programs in the past, for example, with Wynnum City Council, have been with younger cohorts. They might have been at a high school setting. So and they're going through transition periods. So it might be year 10 to year 12, or year 10 to 11 and 12. So wanting to understand their pathways a little bit more, year 12 to university, understanding a little bit more about careers, and then finally university graduates moving into the workforce. So that mentoring program, it was in the context of life development overall. It was very broad. It was very much about orienting young people with regards to where they want to be in the future, what options are available to them, and how they might be able to access those options. And we were very fortunate in that particular program to have Wynnum City Council staff as the mentors with such a wide range of careers and expertise and knowledge. And so that was really, really helpful. And that type of mentoring really focused around personal experiences. There are no right or wrong answers. It was very much about sharing a journey, sharing a pathway, and almost shining a light onto certain paths that might be available to young people who just weren't certain about exactly where they wanted to go or where they were heading. And we've also run mentoring programs with much more specific focuses with older cohorts. For example, a project that we did over in Brimbank recently was it was an alumni mentoring program. So it was everyone who'd gone through a particular leadership program with the council, and the age ranges were somewhere between the people in their mid-30s all the way to people who are retired and in their 70s running community organizations, or the chair people of community organizations who've gone through a leadership program previously. And the idea of that mentoring program was to link up and connect alumni, or people who want to create change within the community because they've gone through the leadership program. So it was a very specific demographic with people with a very specific goal. And that was this very different type of mentoring because there was a focus. So rather than, and the context at Equal Ed usually to mentors is we usually try and provide more structured modules or more structured topics to provide a bit of guidance throughout a 6 or 12-week mentoring program, or sometimes even 6 months long mentoring program, to ensure that there's a bit of transition and scaffolding happening. So there is a flow of what happens. But again, this kind of highlights how different mentoring can be, because in the alumni mentoring program, it was very much about creating community change. Everyone was wanting to start their own community organization, or mentors who have already run their own community organizations coming back to support alumni who want to start their own. Everyone's working in the community sector. So the topics we focused on were very different. There was a lot more opportunity for more, and it was all run online. So that was, again, a big difference as well, where, it was all done over Zoom, but there was more opportunities for group discussions where it was knowledge that could be shared with everybody, because it was, again, everyone had a very specific goal. Everyone was in the same sector, as compared to the other mentoring program previously, where it's much more individual and individual needs. And currently we're running the Young Innovators program, where mentoring is a large element. Helen was involved a few weekends ago, and this ties in multiple things. It ties in mentoring, as well as workshops and masterclasses and skills, and also project development and an opportunity to pitch their projects and ideas. And again, this is an example of where mentoring ties in as a part of a program rather than the entire program itself. And learnings from all three kind of can coincide, and there are a lot of learnings about how to engage people to discuss how to engage people, to communicate and connect with one another. I think those are really important aspects of mentoring, but it also really highlights that mentoring can be done in multiple scenarios and multiple contexts for a multitude of demographics of people. But yeah, that's a brief overview of the type of mentoring and different types of mentoring that Equal Ed currently runs or has run in the past. I might hand it over to Martin, who's also on the top of my screen, to talk about his context.
Thank you, Jeff, and great starting point. And I can just elaborate probably on what you said in very similar shoes, probably to find out, coming back to Bettina perhaps, what is the difference between coaching and mentoring? We actually started off 10 years ago with more a coaching business that is quite often used in the same words and sentences as mentoring. But as Bettina outlined, there is a bit of a difference. And if I can elaborate a bit more there, coaching to me is important because coaching is a bit more gentle. Coaching is quite indirect. Coaching is a skill of guiding people with great question techniques, with great strategies and reflections that the person, or that allows the person to make their own decisions based on their values, based on their strength, based on their own decisions and experiences to achieve a certain goal in their own terms. So that can be quite powerful. If we add the mentoring to it, which is quite fluent, but has distinct differences, which is more directly to the point based on the mentoring actually sharing their own knowledge, their own experiences and skills in a particular field. That's probably really an important part, because mentoring is learning from a person that has more experience in a field and copy the strategies. This is how you get from A to B, and this is exactly how it needs to be done. So there is aspects and benefits from both. In one way, it's great to have an area of expertise in an area because you can draw on it. On the other hand, with the coaching, there's also an advantage that you come in with completely fresh pair of eyes that is not conditioned by circumstances, that is not conditions of this is how we've done it over the last decades, where you really explore more opportunities, innovation, and different ways of doing things. So coming back to our business and how it fits in, we started off with coaching. We realized it became much more. We drew on our expertise, on our experiences, and we also started to mentor quite a few people that wanted to start their own business. And I was quite privileged. I was part of the Enterprising Wyndham a couple of years ago, where we did quite a few mentoring programs here in Wyndham with exactly that, with people who wanted to move out of the workforce and start their own business. There was a beautiful mapping exercise as well, actually, where we looked at past experiences of the mentor. And with my experience in hospitality for over 20 years, I was then paired with a person who actually wanted to start a hospitality business. And that's where it becomes quite powerful, because you can utilize the coaching as well as the mentoring, and you can combine them together, which probably gives you the whole package. So that's a bit of insight of Profound Coaching that turned, even with the name, into Profound Leadership, that now also focuses on mentoring. And I'm just going to hand over the baton to Helen.
Thanks, Martin. I'm just going to be very quick because my kind of role here tonight is to talk about mentoring and more broadly, and in relation to some of the building blocks community we have with us tonight. And so these are the graduates from the Wyndham Building Blocks program. And to encourage you that to see mentoring as a pathway for yourselves, either to be a mentor, and I've looked through the chat and seen that some of you have been mentors yourselves. So to be mentors within Wyndham, you've been through a leadership program, you have a wealth of experience that you're drawing from your work lives, as well as your community life. And I think, you know, those strengths, remember in our building blocks programs, we come from a strengths perspective. And so all those talents and skills and qualities and learning and lived experience you have are really valuable kind of assets. And part of our philosophy in Hothouse projects, but in community development, is around that skill sharing, connecting and skill sharing. Yeah. And, you know, mentor kind of fits in with that kind of skill sharing, that connecting and skill sharing side of things. So a bit stepping into being a mentor, I would encourage you to do that, and being a mentor to young people within the community. I think in every leadership program that I have been part of, or community program that I've been part of, that what is always raised is we need to support our young people, quote unquote. You know, so it's like so for the building blocks community to, you know, support and be a mentor for young people in the community, and you'll bring your community knowledge, your knowledge of Wyndham. You'll also bring your working life knowledge, you know, and this is the knowledge young people need, so, and are thirsty for. So put your hand up for that. The other thing I want to say, yes, and if you want to be a mentee yourself, have a think about what it is you want out of a mentoring relationship, and connect with some of the agencies maybe who are guests here tonight, or you know, we'll provide a list later on of other opportunities where you could connect with others to be a mentee. I have been both as well. So, you know, in lots of informal ways and in workplaces with community members, particularly with community development workers. In my professional life, I'm a mentor to people, and I love doing that. That's part of the whole giving back, and, you know, it's another part of our heart for community, isn't it? So it's another expression of that. I was thinking of this, mentoring can be seen as a learning alliance, you know, between, you know, both people. So, and that you being on either side, you learn something by being on either side. So it's not always a one-way thing. Being a mentor, stepping into that role, you know, you think, oh yes, I've got a lot to share, but believe me, you learn stuff. You know, it is a two-way kind of street. So so that's one thing. My second thing was within the Building Blocks program, I suppose the only mentoring, we have project mentors. So after a program is done, we work with community to support them through the project phase, because it can be stressful, to learn about how to develop, you know, plan, deliver, and acquit a project. So that's we call that a project mentor role, and they are like a guide walking beside you through that process, because that is, when people are new to it, they find it you know, stressful and overwhelming. I suppose in the past, through Building Blocks, we've had what I call, it could be classed as an informal mentor, but more for me like peer support, where we've had Building Blocks people who have gone through the previous program and they've come into the newer program and supported new building blocks people or other people into that program. I'd probably call that more peer support, because it's kind of informal mentoring, but more peer, because you're peers with each other. You're one step ahead, yes, because you've been through a program, and you want to give back as well. But it's more that, then I think that's more a peer learning, and that's another element of you know, that kind of skill sharing and learning together. I might stop there, and I am going to throw this ball to Jamie.
Thank you so much, Helen. Can you all hear me okay? All good? Oh, fabulous. Thank you so much. I want to first begin and acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which I live and work on. I'm on the lands of the Yagara and the Turrbal people here in Meanjin in Brisbane, and I wish to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I also want to pay huge respect to Bettina and the team at the Wyndham Community and Education Centre in bringing me along. It was a great joy to be invited, so thank you so much. And I also just want to say a huge thank you to my fellow panellists. I'm a constant learner, so I'm a bit of a sponge to your wisdom as well, not having met you all before. So thank you so much for sharing your insights. As Bettina mentioned, I work for the Australian Red Cross, and I've worked in this space for over a decade. Accidentally fell into this job after university. And for those who may have been familiar, in 2011, with what was happening in Brisbane, Queensland early in the year, 75% of my state was underwater. And so when I lost my job, as what happens with disasters, I went searching for another one. And my recruiter said, hey, there's a job at Red Cross. Do you want to give it a go? And I thought, gosh, I don't know how to take blood, but I'm happy to learn. Not realizing, oh, you goose, there's an entire humanitarian arm of the Red Cross as well. So I didn't have to take anyone's blood, which is great. But it's really interesting being in this space. I'm also a lead at the Australasian Women in Emergencies Network. I'm a rural fire services volunteer. And as I mentioned, I'm a constant learner. There's always more to know, more to learn. And in my role as a paid staff member and as a volunteer, and just me being Jamie, I am currently a mentor, a mentee, and a coordinator of a mentor program at the Red Cross. And just to talk to you a little bit about the program that we have at the Red Cross is, we kind of see exactly as to what Helen was talking about, is mentoring for us as an alliance of two people that creates a space for dialogue, which results in reflections, actions, and learning for both. And how this program actually happened, it's called the Disaster Recovery Advisors and Mentors Australia, also shortened to DRAMA. So yes, you spelt that out. I'm your drama queen for this evening, so welcome. And essentially this program is aimed at supporting communities communities who are impacted by disasters to drive their own recovery. So experience has shown that when a community has been impacted, excuse me, by disaster, direct access to people who have been faced with similar challenges and difficulties can be an extremely powerful vehicle for effective and targeted transfer and skills and knowledge required in that moment. And DRAMA really is an initiative that is dedicated to proactively finding people whose experience made available at just the right moment to just the right person would actually make a substantial difference to the quality and speed of their recovery after a disaster. So at its heart, this program, DRAMA, identifies, accesses and effectively mobilises the wisdom, the knowledge and the hard-fought experiences generated by previous disasters in Australia through those mentor-mentee relationships. And what it is, it's really, the DRAMA program is a mechanism for the emergency management disaster recovery sector that allows for the mobilisation of disaster recovery experience, and it's across institutions, across states, across communities and across time. So what we do at Red Cross, or what I do at Red Cross, is I link trained disaster recovery volunteer mentors who have previous personal or professional experience in disaster recovery with communities, community leaders and workers who are amid recovery to discuss and address the challenges posed by the recovery process. So And the main goals of this program is to really help communities and community leaders just avoid the unnecessary, sometimes painful pitfalls in recovery. Also to normalise the recovery experience for people. Disasters are very unique and everyone experiences them very differently. And it's just normalising that you're not alone in that really potentially traumatic experience. And it also enables people to access information and increase their knowledge and skills about recovery issues in their community. And again, it just provides an opportunity for people with that lived experience in recovery to use their experience constructively. Thank you for listening to me rabbit on, and I'm going to hand over to, who's the other person? I'm going to hand over to Miss Tess. Where are you, Tess?
Thank you, Jamie. Sorry for my technology issues. I've got kicked out, but I'm still here. So yeah, I'm Tess and I'm from White Lion. As Bettina mentioned, we support vulnerable young people at various involvement with the youth justice system and also the out-of-home care system. So young people are aged generally from age 10 to 24 in foster care, residential care and kinship care. In my role, I coordinate the Community Connections program, which supports young people aged 15 and 9 months to 21 years that are on specific child protection orders. So really we connect the young people with their local community and also connect them with a volunteer mentor. Basically, there's a lot of different programs at White Lion, but I guess the broad purpose of our mentoring programs are to connect the young people we work with a positive role model in the community. It's generally sort of a more informal mentoring match in that there's no specific targets or anything that have to be met. It's all about reducing the number of paid workers in a young person's life, reducing isolation, increasing the young person's hope for a more positive future, and really increasing their engagement in their community. Our mentoring programs really aim to build the young person's informal networks and opportunities and help them pursue their goals and interests. Most of our mentoring programs are a 12 to 18 month one-on-one match where there's usually weekly engagement between the young person and their mentor. And like I mentioned before, it's all sort of guided by the goals of the young person depending on their circumstances and capacity and their interests. For example, we do have some mentoring programs that are more focused on specific things like employment. Others are more broad, just as general social connection, and some young people are more interested in building their independent living skills like cooking and so on. It's really guided by the young person. And yeah, was there anyone else that needed to go next? I think that was everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Tess, and thank you, everyone. That was great insights into your organisation and how mentoring occurs. I wanted to, unpack some more about, from you, and just I know a lot of the information's been covered, but I just wanted to drill down a little bit further. And I wanted to throw a question to Jamie from the Red Cross. You mentioned that having mentors that have past relevant life experiences is important. Why is that important, and how does that benefit the mentee?
Thank you so much. Such a great question, Bettina. I think for our mentees, as they're seeking support and guidance as much as they are from a mentor, and those with the experience of having been through a disaster come with the undeniable credibility of been there, done that. Yeah, I've got the bumper sticker. It's really, really hard. So there are people that can, sit there, listen to them and hear their story. But it comes from a different space as having been there and lived that really challenging experience. So the difference in the reflections that are made back from the mentees is that when they look to the mentors, having had their own experiences of disasters, there's a hope capital there. So, if they can go through that, they've lost their home, their community has suffered a great deal, their family suffered a great deal. If they can do that, perhaps then I can do that as well. And so as much as it is about supporting the individual and listening at that time and meeting them where they are in their recovery, it is also offering, okay, this person has been in a tremendously traumatic experience also, and they've come out the other side. And that's why it's important that they have that lived experience.
Yeah, thanks for that, Jamie. It's great. Helen, I was wondering, in your community development setting, you mentioned the peer-to-peer mentoring. Can you give us some particular examples of good peer-to-peer mentoring? And also on that, have you seen the reverse mentoring, where instead of an experienced older person, perhaps a younger person doing some mentoring to an older person? I've just got you on mute, Helen.
I had to be, sorry, my son came in, I was slightly distracted. So, the joys. Let me have a think. I'll do the reverse mentoring first. So, when at a neighbourhood house that I was managing and working as a community development worker, we had currently it's called Be Connected program, so digital literacy program, and so young people were sharing their skills with the seniors around, digital literacy, how to get on, and older people were, in that exchange, there were stories and, from their life and in the neighbourhood, most of the young people were, international students and people living in the local area who are new to the local area. So there was this kind of lovely mutual kind of exchange. I think that there's a great deal of interest at the moment in reverse mentoring, and particularly in the area of diversity, cultural diversity, and what people can learn in an intercultural way from a range of different mentors. So I think that's an interesting space, and it can, also be that exchange of kind of knowledge and strengths that people bring into that relationship. What else was I going to say? What was the first question you said? It's peer-to-peer.
Yes. Any really fine examples of a peer-to-peer mentoring opportunity?
I think coming into, there's been a number of projects where we've had past participants come in and support people through their projects, and what their projects, rolling out their designing and developing and projects, and particularly if you're working with but they're peers because they're all kind of new to learning, they're new to leadership, or they're new to this kind of situation, and so then it's not set up in that hierarchical kind of way. It's about, okay, you're equal, the power dynamics are very kind of equal. It's in a community setting, so you haven't got the kind of organizational hierarchies or any of that happening. So your peers in community, yeah. So then working together, say on a project. Oh, I've done this before. This is what we did last time. Oh, I know, who you can get in touch with if you need, a good room hire, or you need to hire a bus, or, they give away free veggies, for your program or something like that. There's that kind of really localized kind of knowledge. And at the same time, they come in and they're meeting new people and getting a new perspective on their community because these people are new. So, and have different kind of networks and connections. And so it's it is that mutual learning together, and that sharing of assets or strengths within community. Yeah, does that answer your question, Bettina? Part of it?
Yes, very much so. Thanks, Helen. And I really like the way you've raised that point about opening networks for each other is really valuable. And and the other, there used to be a saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, below that idea, I think that is not true at all. Everybody's lifelong learning is all about learning from all sorts of people, and just by age or whatever. I wanted to go, thanks Helen, I wanted to go to you, Tess. In your organisation, is there a formal or informal approach to the engagement of a young person to a mentor? And how do you communicate this arrangement?
Yeah, so I guess at White Line there's a bit of both. There is a set role, expectation, boundaries, responsibility of particularly the mentor that is usually it must be adhered to, but how each mentoring relationship looks is a bit different depending on the young person and the mentor themselves, and what they're both particularly what the young person is wanting out of the program. Our programs are more formalized at the start of the match, where we the mentoring coordinator like myself, we will support the young person to have at least 2 supported meetings with the potential mentor, and that again is dependent on the young person, and sometimes we might support them a little bit more. It's just up to them and how it goes. Formally as well, all our mentors must go through a specific accreditation training. They have to go through all the processes, including the Working with Children's check, and then the police checks and all that sort of stuff. So that's the more formal side of it. But I guess the engagement between the young person and the mentor is more flexible. Some young people just really are just wanting someone to talk to, someone to go out for walks, learn a new skill with, someone to chat to, maybe like I mentioned before, build those independent living skills like cooking, to support them when they're transitioning out of care, whereas some young people might want that more formal match, or more coaching style, where they might have specific employment related goals and they might be matched with a mentor from a specific industry experience or job experience or something like that. So yeah, it's a bit of both, and very much is just dependent on the young person.
Thanks for that. I wanted to ask Jeff, the role of the mentee in your organisation, what are the key outcomes that you see for the mentee?
Awesome. Thank you for that question. I think that's a really, really great question. I think it's something that we clarify with mentees every time we run a program. So it's definitely a very important question to ask. I think that the key role and the key outcomes that mentees often get is one of them is social capital. It's this ability to have someone within their network that after the program, they might be able to reach back out to, or after the program, they can continue that relationship where if there's something that they don't understand or something that they'd like clarification on, they can still shoot their mentor a quick email or give them a quick text. And that's the really, end goal of a mentoring program. It helps kickstart ongoing relationships as well, and it might be one of the distinguishing factors from coaching as well, where there's a potential for more ongoing relationships. But the social capital extends beyond just the one level of separation with the mentee to their mentor. Oftentimes, mentor might link the mentees up with other people that they know, especially if the mentee is, it's a program with regards to a specific outcome. Let's say the mentee is trying to start their own community program, or has an idea they want to implement the community, and the mentor has that, is from the sector as well, or has that knowledge. Oftentimes, they might link the mentee up with other people within their networks, and it just really helps the mentee broaden their networks and get multiple perspectives and multiple people supporting them. And then finally, it's just that ability to understand the skills or gain new skills or understand the context in which they're about to step into, and that's relevant no matter what the mentoring is. It's oftentimes mentors have a bit of lived experience, or might be 1 or 2 steps ahead, and being able to, I guess, provide that little bit of insight regarding that. And as for the role of mentees, I think I always like to say you get out how much you put in. So, being consistent, being responsive and responsible, showing up to things, coming to sessions prepared with questions that you want to ask, because mentors often have limited times, and then being respectful of the mentors' limited time as well is a really key aspect to being a good mentee. And I think, most of the mentees I've come across have really kind of taken the opportunity by the collars and really gotten the most out of it. So, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great, isn't it? That they just take it in for the benefits that they're getting. It's fantastic. And Martin, I wanted to ask you, how does one go about looking for a mentor? How would someone seek out a suitable mentor for their needs?
Yeah, I think we should start not too far off. I think really keep an eye out of people that you may really look up to, that you trust, because a mentor is a person that you really need to be able to connect, because there will be quite challenging conversation. We need to challenge the status quo. And to do that, the trust needs to be established first. So I'm a big believer they are mentors. They are great people all around us. And I'm sure in Wyndham, I'm quite involved. We have an absolutely beautiful community. We have a very strong community. We have people who are there to support, to step up. So leadership is actually quite big. So if you're looking for a mentor, look in your community, look in your network, look in different associations that we have here in Wyndham. Look in your workplace, look in your sports club, and of course, pick the people, as we already established, that really can give you the benefits you're looking for in that particular field. And yes, I do believe, coming back to that point, a mentor needs to have past experiences. Jamie said that beautifully, putting that sticker on the bumper there and say, hey, I've been there, I've done that. That really can connect to people. But we can have honest conversations and really exchange and pretty much ask any question we want. So having that beautiful relationship, probably that's one of the most important parts. And do check them out. I quite often say, before you engage with a mentor, maybe ask them the question, what have you established in that particular field? I'm a big believer that the mentor should have achieved what you want to achieve in that particular field. Quite often what we're getting wrong is, though, we may look up to a person in general as a human being, and we ask them to mentor in a completely different wrong area. I'll give you an example. I have a beautiful mentor, absolutely great if it comes to business. Would I ask him to mentor me to be a great father? Probably not. And I say that with all respect, because that particular individual doesn't have even kids at all. So my question, of course, would be, how can you draw that life experience from a person who doesn't have it in the first place? So what I'm saying is, be very clear, and you can have more than one mentor, because you maybe want to be mentored in different areas. So always check, what credentials do they have? What did they achieve? Is it what you're looking for? And I'll hand that back to you, Bettina.
Thanks, Martin. Great points. Tess, in your area with these young people, there must be some trust issues with some of these young people. How should a mentee engage with the mentor? Do you find that they are very comfortable for taking the role? Like Jeff was saying, in his area, the young people, might come at it with a different objective. Do you find that the mentees struggle to work with their mentors, or what's your take on that?
Look, sometimes for all our mentoring programs at White Lion, they're all voluntary. So the young people are, are wanting to be part of the programs and they are wanting a mentor. But in saying that, they are young people that have experienced extreme disadvantage and often still experiencing it, coming from places of trauma. So there's times in their life, particularly, times throughout their period with a mentor that they might not engage as much. They might not be willing to do different things, or, like talk about the future or their goals. And sometimes hope can be lost a little bit, but that's where that consistent support and commitment that we really make sure that all our volunteer mentors have, that's sustained, and that is the primary focus, because the goals and sort of the engagement between for the young person might change significantly for them. So yeah, it just depends. And then some young people that we have with our mentoring programs are, extremely eager 100% of the time. It just depends. Yeah.
Thank you, Tess. I wanted to ask Jamie, is there benefits in having a formal agreement of the purpose of the arrangement in place in your organisation? And do you have any examples where it can go off track, where there might just be a clash or some situation arises? What are the warning signs?
That's a great question. For us, we do have an agreement of the purpose of the arrangement, and that's just to meet expectation. Similarly, when we go into the mentor relationship, it's very much a no faults policy, so closure policy. So, some people want to speak to someone for a day because they've got this really urgent thing and they need a brain's trust and they need someone immediately to talk to them about this thing. And then they might need someone to talk for 12 months. So it's really interesting because our mentors, having been in the shoes of our mentees, are very, very understanding and don't take things personally when it's when it goes off track or when it goes a different way that was expected. I guess that's because there comes an understanding that, when someone's gone through a disaster or a traumatic event in their life, they're just going one foot in front of the other. And so in some situations where it's gone off track, so to speak, a person has engaged with a mentor, and for the first 2 months it's been really great, and they're meeting regularly and having that conversations and getting the answers. And then I got a call from a mentee saying, "Can I please have another mentor?" And I thought, oh gosh, is everything going okay? And it was coming back to Martin's point, is that the mentee had essentially had their questions answered from the mentor in the first 2 months, and the timing had shifted and the challenges had shifted. And so it became very apparent that the person who they were initially in contact with as a mentor no longer suited this other urgent thing that came up they needed to support with. And so naturally our mentor was very happy that they were able to support that person in the particular time that they needed. And so we were able to do with our mentees, we do a bit of a questionnaire to determine what it is that you want to achieve with this engagement. And it turns out that their needs had changed, which is very, very normal. So while it kind of went off track, it was still on the track for the mentee and what was right for them.
Excellent, thank you. Martin, in your setting, most of your clients are corporations or small business operators, rather than a community-based environment. What examples do you see of reverse mentoring, where a more senior person is the primary learner and the emphasis of the experience is coming from the junior person?
That is an absolutely beautiful thing to see. I'm actually quite excited about that. You mentioned something before. What's that thing? You can't teach an old dog new tricks. Of course we can. And that's exactly where the younger generations actually come into play. And I think that is really fascinating to see, because sometimes I'm allowed to say that I'm a bit of the older generation. We think we teach new tricks. No, we teach old tricks. Younger generations teach us new tricks because they have a different life experience, they have a different personality, a different mindset. They see things different. So I think we need to take age out of the equation, and that mindset of I need to have 50 years of life experience at least to be a mentor. I have a beautiful son, he's 10 years old. He's sometimes my mentor, especially if it comes to literal digital literacy. We had a beautiful friend over from my older daughter just the other day, because we are allowed again. And we had a conversation and she called me, what did she call me? An internet fossil. How about that? I love it. And I had to laugh. I said, good on you. Teach me new tricks. So the amounts of knowledge they have, and she is 14. I was just gobsmacked. I was like, wow, I need to have you on my team. I need to have you as a mentor. And I think that really gives the younger generation the opportunity to be actually appreciated, to be transparent, to be recognized by their peers, by their managers for what they can really bring to the table. I think the biggest challenge with reverse mentoring is more from the older generation, if I'm allowed to say that, because sometimes there's maybe a bit of a mindset, well, what do you have to offer? You only have half of the life experience. So again, it's not about the whole overall life experience. It's not about you being better than me. It's about how can we leverage from each other's knowledge and experience? How can we leverage from the diversity, from the different paradigms, from the different viewpoints? How can we leverage of your lifestyle? And I think if we have that reverse mentoring in place, I'm sure there will be a lot of really great benefits. Think about driving cultural change. Think about promoting diversity. Think about, as I said before, digital literacy. Think about how to stay relevant to younger consumers and even employees. And I think we've seen it with COVID, especially whoever has bricks and mortar as a business. It's not sustainable. The bills are coming in, they keep coming in. We have to have the closed doors still. A lot of business had to go online. That needs a new mindset. That needs a completely different paradigm. Proud to say that our daughter, 14 years of age, well, actually she's just turned 15, 1 week behind, 15 years of age. She's taking on the responsibility of our social media platforms. So yes, there is a bit of a reverse mentoring going on, even with the family, and we have to be open. We really do. So I'm a big fan of it, absolutely.
Fantastic, yeah, I agree. And I think too, you know, if we're not being around cultural diversity in our workplaces, and a young person comes in who has you know, or a migrant family, they can teach us a lot about just those cultural norms that we perhaps they're not normal to our experiences. So yes, we can all learn a lot from each other, that's for sure. Helen, I was going to ask, although we've kind of established that mentoring is more informal structure, do you still think it's relevant to engage personal and professional boundaries? And how would a person communicate that? Oh, just on off mute.
That's right. Sorry, it's just because the dog was barking before I turned it off. Definitely, in any relationship, there is the mindfulness around boundaries. So, yes, and I think I think it's good. Before we were talking about formal and informal or structured mentoring. And I'm thinking, you know, there's a lot of research that says, you know, mentoring can be, you know, transformative in people's lives, you know, and if it's done right. And I think there's some elements in the research that says, you know, doing mentoring kind of in the right way, you know, there's some elements that are important. A good match, and you know, Martin spoke about that, other people spoke about that. So there's some effort into that good matching, because you need trust, you need good communication, yeah? So that's good. There needs to be clear purpose, then expectation and boundaries. Yeah. So around, well, what's this going to look like? What's it going to look like for me? How do I have a say in that? What's my choice in this? Someone else said it has to be voluntary. So yes, you choose to be there. Yeah, no, don't force anyone to do anything. It won't work, full stop, you know? So the choice is important. And setting goals is important, you know, and articulating those, and being intentional about what this experience, this relationship, intentional relationship has for me. What goals am I setting for myself in this? And it's good to, you know, debrief and reflect. So about what that experiences was, and, you know, make sense of it as well. So those are the elements that make up a good mentoring relationship. The boundaries work in any relationship is being able to articulate, you know, what your needs are, and to also, you know, being able to use your I statements, and if there's conflict or, you know, disagreement, or you know, something that is making you uncomfortable, you need to be able to you know, through the trust that you've established and the rapport in the relationship, do you need to be able to kind of say, I'm not feeling comfortable with this at the moment. You know, identify the behaviour. You know, what you said then. You know, what happened there. You know, that's actually made me feel uncomfortable, and you know, I need this to, you know, make me not feel uncomfortable, you know? So you need to, you know, be able to assert yourself and use, you know, positive, assertive communication to be able to, you know, keep those kind of, be clear about what your boundaries are. And also part of that is your responsibility to understand that boundaries are actually good. Boundaries keep you safe. Boundaries actually allow you to take risks. Boundaries allow you to grow. Yeah, we need them. It's not free for all, because that's chaos, and that's not going to help you. So boundaries are good things. And sorry, I've done lots of work with young people and in care sector in the past, and in young people who've experienced trauma, and in those dynamics. So these are very important things that we talk about. But within the mentoring relationship, it's good to be able to you know, be able to articulate, understand, and listening to your body. Your body will tell you, you know, where you're uncomfortable, where, you know, you're pushing up against a boundary that's needs to be maintained. I think there's some ethical kind of issues, and, you know, informal structured mentoring programs, they have induction programs, and these things are covered in that induction program. Good programs have that. I think Tess spoke about that as well, you know, a really critical part, and I think Jamie did it. So others have mentioned that, you know, good induction orientation programs for both into the program.
Yeah, indeed. I've got two more questions, and I want to throw this question to the people in our, looking after the youth sector, Jeff and Tess. In your organisations, the young person is maybe the mentee and probably the primary member that you're servicing. But and I'm probably asking this from a personal perspective, but is there mentoring available for the family, the parents, the guardians of a youth risk, or how do family members do their best, I guess, to support the young people?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to go first, Jeff?
Tess, I'm not sure if you want to go first, and then.
No, that's fine. I guess at Whiteline, our at the moment, our support is focused on the young person. So at the moment, no, but that is, I guess that is an area we can identify as a gap, an area of need. So yeah, so I'll let you speak to this one, Jeff, because you might have a bit more to say than I can. Yeah.
I think quite similarly to Tess as well. The young people we work with at the moment, the mentoring does revolve quite heavily around the young people being the mentees. But there are also elements, I guess, to it where there's peer mentoring involved as well, where young people with get some mentoring from their peers, but there's not so much of a focus with regards to their family per se. We work with the families in more of a context, and this is less in the context of even our mentoring programs and more our academic support programs. It's more of a partnership between the parents and staff members and coordinators to better understand a young person's needs, and less of a perspective of how can we mentor parents to, I guess, adapt to the young person's needs. But again, similar to what Tess is saying, I think it might in fact be a gap that's identified, and we can definitely, or should definitely, look into it a bit more. But there's definitely, I think, working with young people, especially underserviced young people, oftentimes it's important to not just work with the young people in isolation. It is important to work with parents as well, and I think that's really important to highlight. It's just that the way we work with them is more of a partnership based, where they let us know what the needs are and we can kind of adapt a bit better. Yeah.
Thanks very much, Tess and Jeff, for that. That was great. My last question before we take a short break is to Helen and anyone else that might want to jump in with when is the right time to end a mentoring relationship, and how do we go about that?
Yep. Often the in formal, more structured programs, there will be, this is a mentoring process for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, whatever it is. It is up to the person, because it is about choice. And I think Jamie. Yeah, Jamie mentioned, something about this as well, that people had gained what they needed from that person within 3 months or whatever, and it's kind of like, oh, okay, I need another mentor. There is a positive way to end a mentoring relationship, so it's not just sneaking away and see nothing's spoken of and where did they go type thing. It's it's part of that responsibility and saying, look, thank you, that was really valuable. The 3 months we've spent together, I've learned a lot. I feel like this relationship has been fantastic, but I think I'd like to do something else now, but thank you for your time. So there's a way of taking responsibility for that and finishing, and then kind of moving on, and you could, because it's a gift, isn't it, this relationship, and who knows when you might connect again in the future. Don't burn your bridges. Do you know what I mean? Someone else might like to add there.
I may jump in, Helen, if that's okay.
Beautiful.
I love absolutely what you said, and yes, please end it on a positive note. That relationship is way too valuable to just walk away. I think ending a relationship is also great to celebrate the success. I think we don't do that often enough. And I quite often say, who wants to have a meeting? If you can have a party, do celebrate the success. Really appreciate and acknowledge how far the mentee came, how much the mentor maybe learned as well. And yes, it's a giving and a taking. I do believe in win-win situations, and it's not just the mentee that wins, the mentor wins as well. And I'm actually intrigued how much I learn every single time I catch up with someone. And probably coming back to what Bettina said, that's the reverse mentoring. It literally, you can learn from the other person. You can learn about yourself by dealing with the other person too. So there's so many wonderful aspects. Even in the past, I've seen it. There are some great synergies. The mentoring relationship might even turn into long-term friendships or not. Either way, it's fine. But please finish it on a positive note. And yes, we have a very small community, and it happens to me as well. Maybe it just wasn't the right time. So if you are honest to yourself, if, as Jamie said, maybe one session was enough, or maybe you were just on a different place at the time where you feel, you know what, I'm bored and uninterested when I meet with my mentor. Sometimes I hear comments like this, it's such a chore when I have to deal with my mentee. These are usually signs it's not a good match. These are signs, as Helen said as well, it must be voluntary. People want to be there. They need to be curious. They need to be eager to exchange information. They need to be respectful. If these signs show up, yes, please don't take it personal. I had people who weren't ready yet to be mentored. And yes, Helen said it beautifully. They may call up in a year's time. They may call up in 2 years' time and say, look, I was just not ready to hear those things. Can we start all over again? And that can be a win-win as well, but keep it positive for sure.
Thanks, Martin. That's great. I think we've taken an opportunity for a very quick stretch break, 5 minutes if we can. I'll leave the, if you wanted to drop out, just not drop out, stay with us, because we're going to go into breakout rooms when we come back, and that's an opportunity for you to ask any one of these panel members questions. We'll drop into separate 5 different rooms, so you can choose which room you'd like to go in.
Today people ask me 10 years in, they say, Martin, what are you doing? And I say, I still don't know. So what I'm saying here is, as more you learn, as more you know how little you know. There's so much great information out there, which is beautiful. Now I'm just going to say it how it is for me, or was for me. I think at the time, ignorance is bliss, and I say that with all respect. If I probably would have known how much is involved in actually building a business, I would not have started. At the same time, I'm saying, thanks God, I didn't know what was involved. So thanks God, I did start with the ignorance I had. Otherwise, I would not be where I am today. Otherwise, we would not have a successful business. And probably that's coming back to similar information, as I said to Stefania. We need to be the best we can be. We need to be in competition with ourselves and with our previous self, with the person we used to be yesterday, not with other people, not with other businesses. Interesting enough, people say, Martin, are you out of your mind with what you do? You're competing about big players. You're competing against universities, TAFEs, PricewaterhouseCoopers, you name it. Interesting enough, most of those that I just listed are today clients of ours.
Wow.
So I'm not saying that to showcase how good I am. That's not what it is all about. But I'm saying what is possible when we are willing to learn and when we are willing to implement. And seeing those changes and the growth is a beautiful thing. I quite often look back and you can see quite a few books there. I was so scared to publish my first book. This one is my 6th one here, and it became an international bestseller on Amazon. I would never have dreamt about it. My teacher in high school, when I wanted to study English, said to me that I'm too stupid to learn English. And today I published books in English. I still have a beautiful accent. I'll be back.
There's
yeah, I know
hope.
I sound like
There's
Arnold
hope.
Schwarzenegger.
Wow.
But what I'm saying is, there comes a time, Pinky, where you probably have to make a decision. Please look out for mentors, maybe more than one, especially in the areas that you don't have the experiences yet, and utilize on top of it all the experiences that you already do have.
That's
And
right.
take one step at a time. Start small and be consistent.
Mm.
That's probably the other thing that I would like to outline. When I started with a few friends, I think the biggest mistake people did starting a new business, a lot of them came from a corporate aspect and they only knew employment. So guess what was the first thing they've done when they started their own business? They got a company card, they got an office, they got expensive brochures, business cards, websites and everything. And they did not have even one single client yet. And I say that with all respect, but this is how corporate is set up. You start somewhere, you have an office, you may have a company card, you have mobile phone, you have everything you need. If you start on your own business, please start lean. The most important thing you want to have is find clients and see where you fit in with your value proposition. What is the service or the product that is needed by your ideal clients? And it's all about value proposition. I hope that helps a bit, just to give you some value already. Awesome.
Proposition.
Everything is a value proposition. If people don't see value, they're not going to pay for it. So you need to be able to show people the value you can offer to them.
Wow, there's really a psychology on value, right? In community, you always do pro bono jobs or pro bono services. And like it's really, I'm used to it. But
Yeah.
then when you said the value, I think it's a sign from God. Actually, you're the second or third person this week that told me that.
Yeah, and there must be a
About
reason for
value.
it, Pinky. And I hope you get that message because, as I said, pro bono is a hobby. Pro bono is a contribution to the community. If you're talking about a business, it's a commercial aspect. Business must make money. And it's not about judgments. And if you want to utilize, if you want to continue with pro bono and mentoring, please keep doing it. Just don't call it business.
That's right.
It's your hobby, not your business. Two different things.
Thanks for that.
Cool. And
Good.
please forgive me in advance, Hengame, or how do you
Hengame.
pronounce your name? Hengame?
Hengame. Nice to
Hengame.
meet you. Yes.
Lovely to meet you as well. What brought you to our breakout room?
And, just very inspired from your talking. I find some of, my, answer of the question when you're talking, I find it. So because of that, I'm coming here. One is because you talking about the we learn from the children. We are older because I'm exactly this experience this position at home. And another things about the business, you're talking about, because I, sometimes I think I know lots of things to do for example, in mostly in area of art and philosophy and other things. But how I make a business for them, sometimes I don't know.
Yes, and I can see we just get a message, but we'd love to have that conversation. It's okay not to know. Again, with mentoring, with research, with talking to the right people, we really have a mindset of curiosity. That's the most important part. If somebody interests you, if somebody's able to push your buttons, pick their brain, because they have a different way of thinking, which gives you value. That's probably a really important one. Curiosity is key. We were all very curious when we were kids. We were asking thousands of questions. Quite often we were conditioned to be quiet, to sit still and wait and not interrupt adults when they talk. Yes, we need to have boundaries, but what I'm saying is we need to be careful because we lost the curiosity.
How you going?
Good. John is back too.
Yeah.
Are you following me or am I following you?
In terms of
we're
no, no, I'm following you. I'm following
we're
you.
following each other.
Yeah.
Good.
I love everything you're saying. You hit the nail on the head when you said it's important to find a mentor who's doing something that you would like to do. I was very significant. Hold on.
Yeah, really important. Yeah, we need to have that connection. Absolutely. Yeah. Hey, Cherie, good to see you as well. What are you up to?
Sorry, I realized how much I blend into my background. I'm like half fading in. Yeah, like I'll just do a quick intro. Like, so I'm Cherie. I'm a Building Blocks alumni. So I went through the program in 2019, I think. And I'm also studying a Bachelor of Community Development at Vic Uni. So that's kind of like my like career path, goal, interest sort of thing. In terms of mentoring though, like I was very much like, I came into this thinking I want to be like a mentee, but the more that I've like listened to everyone's conversations, it's like, I feel like I actually like could potentially offer, like I can be both, like I can in one context or within one sort of situation, I can be the mentor and then like a mentee in the other. So yeah, that's like, it's good. It's interesting.
Oh, it is. And I quite often recommend people ask me, do you have a mentor? Do you have a coach? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It is that opportunity of brainstorming thing. Who was it? Helen Keller, who beautifully said, alone you can do so little, together we can do so much. And there's a lot of learning, having conversations, picking each other's brain. We can always benefit from each other. And I think that's how we create the ripple effects, isn't it? And that's what it's really all about.
Amen.
Yeah, I think I came into the class to, I don't know, I just came in to hear what this masterclass has to offer. And it's really, it kind of takes me back to my community and culturally how we grew up. And you touched on about, it's about the life experience that person in particular that you've had to be able to mentor you because they've been through it. And I can't help going back to our culture, how we grow up as young boys or young men, young women in that case. Like you always have a mentor around you, whether it be an uncle or grandfather, or because you're shown how to go and hunt, you're shown how to dig, you're shown where to sow certain seed. And all of that is what we're talking about now. And to me, it's like I've gone all the way out to here, and now I got to go back to actually understand how we used to do it, because that system is exactly what's been implemented here. It's the blueprint. So it's really funny just looking at it in a way, and you talking about your daughter being like, she's now looking after the business due to the circumstances of where we are now. She's doing the important part, which is your marketing and all that stuff that you probably wouldn't have paid that much attention to it. You didn't have to, you didn't need to. but it's something that you're also willing to learn now because she's now going to show you that part because she's grown in that aspect because to a way that she's got experience in there to be able to teach you that, which is pretty good. It's just like, yeah, it's almost like a all-in-one incubator experience of life that need to be fostered in a way that at time you don't know which part you're going to need. And I think that's the environment that we all kind of like growing in at the moment, because you never know when I'm going to need my daughter to help me out, figure out how to turn my laptop on or tell my little, I guess, robot to make me tea, because that's going to happen eventually sometime.
Absolutely. And George, you have a beautiful, important point, if I can add to it. You know, sometimes we get so caught up in differences and diversity and difference and who is right and who is wrong. We are much more the same than we are different. And you said it, you know, we have so many different backgrounds, even with the 5 people probably in that breakout room. Yeah. But we're all still human beings. They are, you can see probably more on the bottom here, they are books. Napoleon Hill. Yep. That goes back centuries. And people say, is that still relevant today? We are in the 2020s, still relevant. I said, you know what? Human principles don't change.
Amen.
Human practices do, which is the fashion, which is the trends, but the principle stays the same. If we go to the core of human beings, we are the same. We have the same needs, and we can focus on the differences. We can focus on the sameness and learn the principles, which is very powerful indeed.
True.
Yeah.
So where we choose to put emphasis.
Martin,
absolutely.
Martin, I wanted to ask you a question. So the first question is, what compelled you to write your first book, and what exactly is your first book about?
Yeah, what compelled me? I believe that I have something in me to share. I really believed, but I tell you now, and sorry my French, I was shit scared. I told everyone I'm gonna write a book, and it was actually based on my hospitality, and it's Swiss. It's a hospitality management book.
Oh, nice.
And I have very beautiful friends who keep me accountable. And they said, Martin, how are you going with your book? I said, I haven't started yet. Wasn't the right time. I didn't have enough time. My wife didn't support me enough. I was running out of excuses. And then I realized I can have either excuses or I can have results, but I can't have both. That to me was a light bulb moment. And it's so simple, but I realized, do I want to keep using excuses and not getting anywhere, or do I start to take responsibility and start writing this book and actually get an outcome? To me, that was life-changing. And as I said, probably didn't sold as many as I thought. I learned from my mistakes. And the 6th one, as I said, became an international bestseller on Amazon just end of last year. It's a collaboration. Again, it's a collaboration between 16 authors around the whole world. I probably couldn't have done it myself, but it's amazing what you can do with great people that have a very similar interest and a common goal. So that hopefully answers the question. And we all do have a story inside of us. We all have a few books. The question is, are we driven by fear that nobody going to buy it, or that we're going to be judged, or are we focusing on?
But for the now, we'll just have a short 5-minute break, stretch your legs, and if you come back in, please feel free to have an open conversation. Thanks very much for your time so far. Welcome back into the main room. I hope you got a lot out of meeting with each other. I'd love it if you would put into the chat and share your key takeaways from this mentoring masterclass this evening. We are getting to the hour, ready to wind up this wonderful session. I must say it has been a very stimulating conversation and lots of really good information coming from obviously a wealth of wisdom and experience. If there's, we've got probably about 7 minutes or so. If anyone would like to share their key takeouts, if the panel members have got another bomb of wisdom that they'd like to drop before we go, I would love to hear your voices. Don't be shy, take yourself off mute.
I can share. The first group that I went into was with, what's her name? From
Tess.
Yes, Tess. Thank you. And yeah, totally enjoyed it. I think, you know, just to hear what it is that they do and what her daily routine is, and just knowing, you know, like our organization's very new. We've been around for just over 12 months. And so to be amongst other youth sectors, it was really good, you know, because I haven't met her before, and she was just saying that she's just been in her role for just a bit over 2 months. And I thought, oh, that's why I haven't met you, because the last time we did go into a meeting, it was actually a Wyndham City Council training. There was somebody else there, but it's great to, you know, these platforms are really good to network and actually, you know, hear what everybody else is doing and how, you know, we've got other people to refer our young people if we're unable to assist them. So yeah, thank you so much for this platform.
Thank you, Tapu. Can you tell us where you're from, what organisation you're from?
So I'm part of the Pacifica Tour team. Pacifica Tour is actually, well, mainly we were aiming for our young Pacifica kids, but since being in the industry, we've found that, you know, it's for all kids. So we're targeting all kids between 14 and 24. It's just creating safe spaces for our young ones to just come and be, and to know that they are enough. Being them is enough. You know, it's hard enough, you know, trying to get through life with, you know, with trying to be something that they're not. And we're very fortunate to be able to, you know, to really get to know and hear some of these young people's stories and to be able to help them through some of life's challenges. So, yeah.
Very nice. And it is a privilege to be able to be in the lives of young people.
You
know,
absolutely.
To get them through. It's always a
Absolutely.
tough journey, and being in lockdown for so long and all these restrictions on, you know, everyone, you know, there's a lot of challenges in our community, and it's just so wonderful to see so many people that are here to help out. And well done, Tess. You've been thrown in the deep end then, if you've only been in your role for 2 months and you've been thrown at this, but you're obviously very experienced professional. So thank you very much. Anyone else like to share their key takeouts from this mentoring masterclass?
Just a heads up, Bettina, some great feedback. There's some great feedback in the chat.
Can't hear you, sorry, whoever that's speaking.
It's me, it's fun. There's some great feedback in the chat section.
Oh, John was just saying that there's some feedback in the chat here, which is great.
Yes, there is some great feedback in the chat. And are there any questions that we haven't been able to get answered?
I have like a sort of question, sort of comment. Like, I think for the, like with the whole mentoring sort of idea, and like, sorry, I'm Shuri. I'm doing a Bachelor of Community Development, just to help with that in context. And also I'm a Building Block alumni from the Green Living in Wyndham. Just trying to, I guess, make sense of the, like, if you're having a mentoring relationship, so that's your, like, you know, it's an informal support, and it's about like building community outside of paid workers. But like, is there a way that you can sort of like, it can be like say if you've got like youth services, like you're more likely to have government funding rather than it being a community-led organization. So like, is there different types of mentoring? Like, so I don't know how to explain this. Yeah, just like, I'm just looking at funding opportunities for new programs and how to like tap into those, I think.
Sharon Brown from Wyndham, would you have any feedback on that? Because I know the councils often have funding rounds.
Council, I know Cherie already knows this because she's been through building blocks, but council does offer variety of different grant options or funding options, from small grants all the way through to large grants, and applying to develop a program is definitely something that would be under the umbrella of the grants program. Specifically what you wanted to develop is entirely up to what you want to do, but it's worth at least talking to the grants officer at council and have a conversation with him or her and get to know, and so you can actually then discuss what your ideas are, because the variety of programs that are open, as I mentioned, do actually are varied in the amount of money and support that you're able to get. So I'd be recommending and to do that, but then also the grants officers can provide you opportunities to then link into existing programs that they're aware of that may also then provide opportunities to link in with existing rather than creating new. So that would be my recommendation. And, you know, Troy, speak to him. Tamara was online a little while ago. I think she's still here.
Just jumped off.
Just left. Because Tamara is now working in building blocks, but then, you know, I definitely speak to Troy Ely, or just have a chat with me if you want. I can definitely chat to you about the options that are available, and also the local community centres for mentoring. That may be an option as well, because they do have programs that are actually running in the community managed centres that have mentoring programs, and they can also auspice you if you're a small organisation that isn't incorporated. They can auspice you if they think your idea is good enough. And then you can go through that local community centre to then obtain a grant, rather than actually then having to have your own insurance and become an incorporated body, which you might not want to do at the moment. You just may be wanting to put your toe in the water. And so I'd recommend speaking to a local community centre, maybe one that around the area that you live, or one that has the programs that really fit your sort of direction that you're wanting to head. So that will be my recommendations.
Thank you, Sharon. That was very helpful. It's always good to have like a little refresher as well, because like when you sort of have been out of the scene, you forget, like, yeah.
Yeah, but the grants program is a brilliant opportunity, and Troy knows the grants inside and out. And he, as I mentioned, he's a great advocate to link into other existing programs rather than recreating the wheel sort of thing. So if he already knows that there's something in the community, he will link you into that, or provide an opportunity for the NU to actually link in with another organisation who could perhaps auspice your project idea.
Thank you, Sharon. That's great. Well, thank you, everybody. We're at the hour, and I know that probably we've got family to get back to. So I would love to say thank you to all the alumni members for turning up here today. This wouldn't be it without you. It's been a pleasure to run a masterclass on mentoring for you. Thank you from the Wyndham Community Education Centre. I'd like to thank Helen Rod from Hot House Projects, Martin Probst from Profound Leadership, Jeffrey Lau from Equal Ed, and Jamie Morgan-Besser from Red Cross, and Tess Williamson from White Lion. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us this evening, and we look forward to crossing paths again one day. And I just want to wish you all the best, everybody here.
And thank you, Bettina, on behalf of the Building Blocks family that's here. Thank you for steering us through the very confusing land of mentoring. You've made it less confusing.
Oh, good.
So thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you once again to the panelists. We do appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And have a safe night, everybody. Just
Okay.
FYI,
Thank
yeah,
you.
look after yourself.
Thank you, everyone.
Go
Bye.
gently,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Take care. See you
Bye.
later.
Bye, everyone.
Thank
very
you. Thanks, Bettina. That was wonderful.
Oh, thank
Great
you.
job.
much.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. Thanks, John.